thank you all for being here. Let me do a quick introduction and why we are doing this panel. I'm Ilja Goossens from Chartboost. We're a technology platform for mobile gamers. And I get a lot of questions about analytics and monetization. So I thought it was good to get some people on the panel who are covering all aspects of analytics basically, and people that use the analytics. I think we'll go through a couple of questions that I have. We give the people on the panel the time to introduce themselves, and then I hope we get some questions from the audience. The panel will be in English, so I think there's real-time translation available, and some of our panelists speak Russian, so maybe they can translate as well. And I want to give everyone the opportunity actually to introduce themselves quickly. What do you do, which company, and I also would like to know what game you're playing at the moment. So, Richard, if we start with you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Richard Pidgeon from Distimo. We are an app analytics company. We cover all the analytics for revenues, reviews, downloads from all the app stores. We are based in head offices in Amsterdam. We've now got offices in London, San Francisco, New York, Japan, Singapore, and we're looking to open up an office in Russia somewhere. I don't know if that's going to be St. Petersburg or Moscow. And we're also opening an office in Beijing, Korea, Japan, and Berlin. So we're going through a massive growth period at the moment. There's a huge amount of interest surrounding sort of analytics and data around the app stores. So that's me. And as far as games I'm playing, I have to admit I'm playing Candy Crush Saga.
Oh dear, so am I. Candy Crush all the way. And I should say Racer as well, for Tatem. So my name's Jenny O'Connor. I'm Client Services Director at AdX. So AdX is a conversion tracking solution for both apps and mobile web. And what we do is we track all of your downloads and downstream in-app events back to the source of the last media click. So we are integrated with over 400 ad networks globally, and what it means for you as a developer is that you only have to take one SDK or universal SDK, so one piece of code, into your application, and we are integrated with the ad networks, so you can obviously post back conversion data to them in real time, and it just makes optimizing your campaigns a lot easier on both sides. We are based in London. We have offices also in San Francisco. And we're looking to open up offices also in APAC very soon. So thank you.
Hi. My name is Nadia. I work at Tatem Games. Tatem Games is a Ukrainian game developer studio. We have over 50 people. We have offices in Kyiv and Nikolaev. Our games are played by over 25 million people. We started the core of the company started making games in 1995, so we were making games for PC, then we were making premium games for iOS. We are currently present on iOS, Android, Amazon, and BlackBerry. And we are soft launching our first freemium game with virtual economy right now. So we're using services of most of the people who sit here, and we're using both analytics and monetization and advertisement.
Hello guys, my name is Vadim Rogovsky. I'm founder and CEO of Clickky. Clickky is a mobile app marketing platform focused on user acquisition and traffic monetization. So we help developers to drive installs to their games and to earn from their traffic. We are based in Odessa, Ukraine. Also we have offices in Moscow, in London. Soon we will open an office in New York. There are around 30 people working at Clickky. That's all.
I'm playing Clumsy Ninja, by the way.
And I'm playing Bad Piggies from Rovio. Yeah.
Well, luckily everybody's playing games. I just started playing Flow. I don't know why I was so late, but Somebody pointed it out last week, and I'm now hooked. So I think we all know now that it's very important to use the analytics, and there's so many types of analytics. But I wanted to first ask, actually, more broader, what kind of analytics in the game do you think are important? And I think that's more for Tatem and Clickky. So what do you measure if you are measuring the user behavior?
We certainly are measuring user behavior, because now to make games compelling to most of the users, you need to know which areas of the game they are using the most. And also, when you're making the game, sometimes you think that some areas of the game are more important, but the users actually don't pay attention to what you thought was most important, and users find something else that they are playing. So there is a general saying in the industry that retention is more important than monetization, because if users are retainable, then they can be monetized through different ways. So I think that our first metrics, first KPI that we pay attention to is retention. Then, of course, we measure all kind of monetization metrics, which are what kind of items are more desirable to people, what kind of in-app purchases, what amount of virtual coins or virtual currency they're more likely to pay, what offers, if you offer any discounts in your game, what are most compelling to your users. And this is from the point of view of a marketeer. And of course, game designers, they also measure learning curve, how fast people progress through the levels, what items they buy, what interactions they make. And also, we try to measure virality, because social kind of user acquisition, when people learn about your game through Facebook post of their friend, is one of the cheapest ways to acquire new users. So we're measuring how many invites go out from our users to their friends, and how those invites convert to actual installs.
And if you look at Clickky, because they actually, how do you say, do the work for a lot of game developers. Yeah. Is there anything in these kind of metrics that you also measure, or do you let the game developer do all the metrics measuring, and do you only look at ROI, attribution, and those kind of analytics?
Basically, we are advertising platforms, so mostly we are looking at conversion rate, of course, because the higher is conversion rate, the cheaper is install, and so it's very important. Highly qualitative installs must be cheap for app developer, and it will allow him to scale and to buy more from us. So we are very I think that optimization matters. So we did our in-house platform to optimize media buys and to drive installs with the cheapest price for app developers. But of course, we need app developers to be satisfied with this traffic, and if these installs won't bring them any value, of course, this app developer won't return to Clickky to buy more traffic. So we're also doing some stuff to track also post-install events and ROI, and of course customer lifetime value. So we are not doing it now, but it's the main priority for the next year. So we will start to drive traffic that will bring not only the highest conversion rate, but the highest customer lifetime value.
Looking at lifetime value, I think this is of course the key for every developer to know, because if you know what the lifetime value is, you actually know what you can spend on user acquisition, and then combined with the K factor or the virality that Nadia already was talking about, that makes you very aware of what you can spend. And I think there's still a lot of people overspending at the moment on user acquisition, but we have 4 different people here, and for me it's interesting to see what for Distimo, how would I use Distimo as a developer?
So I think it's really important for developers out there to actually not only understand where their installs are coming from, but also their retention value. So sorry, answering the question, what would you guys use Distimo for? So it's really important that you start getting as much data in around where your users are coming from, where your installs are coming from, which countries they're coming from, which platforms they're coming from. So there are a number of sort of free services that we offer regarding some of the conversion tracking, so seeing exactly which campaigns you're running, and seeing the success of those campaigns, so that then you can stop doing the poorer campaigns and start spending your money sort of wisely in the more successful campaigns. So we've got some conversion tracking tools that you can use. That's all free. We also have the tools that, without installing any SDK at all, you can see exactly where and which platforms your installs are coming from. You can see your reviews all in one place. So we're giving you the tools to make your job as far as pulling that data in as easy as possible, because it's essential that you see transparency in the market and all of your data. So yeah, it's really important for you to capture as much data as possible from us and from other providers that are out there as possible.
But is this only metrics from the stores, or is this only also in-game metrics?
Yeah, so our core business is from the stores. We have introduced some of the conversion tracking tools whereby you can see sort of a lifetime value of users from any ad networks that you have. So we've started to introduce new products into our tools.
So you're getting closer to AdX, or maybe AdX can explain exactly what they do and how they do it?
So, we recognise that we want to attract as many developers onto our platform as possible. That's why we're introducing as many free tools as possible. So we recognise that there are other platforms and suppliers out there, but we're just trying to introduce more and more free tools for you guys as possible.
Yeah, I think it's worth pointing out that a lot of the clients that AdX works with are gaming developers, so the tool has evolved in such a way that to meet their demands, meet their requirements. So kind of just to give you an idea of some of the stuff that we do, obviously you create in-app events that are tracked back through the AdX SDK, and obviously we're telling you where all those downloads and in-app events are actually coming from in terms of your traffic. But there are so many different, there's like 30 different reports in AdX, and they're all geared to helping you make really clever decisions about which ad networks you should be buying with. So if it's an acquisition-led campaign, for example, then yes, you'd be looking at something like the conversion rate. You also have the ability to put pricing into AdX, and we can be passed pricing automatically on the click, or you can manually input it, and that will populate an event cost report. So that's obviously a very valuable tool as well. We have a lot of retention-based reporting, so a lot of our reporting, as you can imagine, is cohort based, so cohorted back to the actual date of the download. So we have a cohort retention report, which is really great because it allows you to look at on a daily basis which of the ad networks is driving the best retention rate over time. So you might be seeing that an ad network's driving a lot of downloads, but actually their retention rate after a few days is dropping off. So it helps you make a decision about whether you should be working with that partner on a sort of more long-term basis. But just to conclude, I think the most valuable and exciting reports for our gaming developers at the moment are things like the cohort ARPU graph. So again, you can work with this graph, so you can overlay the different ad networks that you are working with, and it will show you the average revenue per user that's coming from each of these ad networks. So for example, in my mind, how you would use that is you would, at the beginning of the campaign, be looking to identify which of those ad networks is accelerating more aggressively to your break-even point, because ultimately you want to be making money as soon as possible. So you'd use that information from that chart, and obviously that will help you make some really key decisions. And just to close, I think what we're talking about here is actually identifying the best ad networks to work with. But again, the next level for AdX is we're being passed a publisher ID by a lot of the ad networks on click. So not only can we cohort this data back to the ad network, but also back to the publisher who is part of that ad network. So sales revenue cohorted back to publisher level, ad network level, creative level, which allows you to then marry that to your spend and look at the return on investment not only at an ad network level but also down to a publisher level as well.
Yeah, because the question I have about the integration of multiple SDKs into one is, what kind of transparency do I get as a game developer, as a publisher? So both the user acquisition and the ones showing the ads, how much transparency do I still have using AdX?
So the whole purpose of using AdX is obviously that you don't have to take multiple SDKs from the other partners. So, you know, we have spent 3 years, and it's obviously a lot of work integrating with these ad networks. And so for a lot of the ad networks you're working with, there shouldn't be a requirement to take another SDK.
And do you also do mediation, or is it automated, or do you choose as a developer that you do the mediation for them? Or because I don't think everyone knows how that exactly works. I mean, mediation is using multiple networks, and a third party actually tries to optimize the traffic specifically for your source. Is that also something you do?
Yeah, so we're integrated with, you know, everyone in the marketplace. So it's not just ad networks, the SSPs, the DSPs as well.
Yeah,
so.
Okay. Then what I'd like to know from the ones using these services, and I think that's more, do you actually both use third-party tracking software?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, and Tatem Games uses AdX.
Okay, so that's a good match. It wasn't intended to be. So, I see the thing is, 2 years ago there were not many ad networks. Now there are. We did a calculation, or well, it was more an estimation a few months ago, and I think there are now more 150 plus ad networks, and everybody has this highest fill rate, highest eCPM. Of course, everybody has the best product, and this is actually where you see more and more people coming to use third-party tracking, mobile app tracking, AppsFlyer, AdX. For us as Chartboost, it's a bit difficult. That's why I was talking about the transparency. I think it's very important to have the control as a developer over where your ads show or what kind of ads you're showing in your game. So what's your experience in using these third-party tracking? Did it really give you more time to work on other stuff, or did it give you a higher return of investment?
So one of the pluses, like Jenny said, of using AdX is that you don't have to integrate many SDKs. And if you're planning a launch of a freemium game, you think that you're going to buy 10 millions of users, and most probably one network will not be able to supply this, so you'll have to use different networks. And if there are developers here, they know that the more SDKs you have in the game, the more unpredictable the game behaves, and it gets harder to track down bugs and make all these SDK work perfectly. So on the side of not having to integrate many SDKs, this is a perfect solution. On the other hand, it requires some server tuning, which if you have always been making a client games which are heavy on client side and not so heavy on server side, it may be a little bit of a problem for you. It is very transparent and encouraging to see that from a certain ad network, people have returned this many times, they have paid, they have bought, they have passed through tutorial. From another ad network, people didn't convert very well. And in ideal world, every developer, I think, would like to have a system of their own which does this, but only big publishers can afford this. So systems like this, they are very good for small to medium-sized developers who want to know whether the money they're spending are worth spending.
Clickky is integrated with almost all main third-party tracking providers, and of course we're integrated with ADEX as well, and soon we'll be integrated with Distimo, I hope. The core value for us is that if developer has already implemented, for example, ADEX SDK, he doesn't need to implement our tracking SDK, and we can just set up tracking just in a few minutes. It's really easy, and the developer doesn't need to implement any other SDK. So we can start advertising campaign for this developer very quickly and drive installs to the developer. So as for us, it's very convenient. It's very convenient to work with third-party tracking providers, and although we have our own tracking tool, we are not promoting it really actively now because we don't see any sense here. If such smart guys are already at this market, it makes no sense here.
Maybe you can my question is, if you are a game developer and you do user acquisition, why would you use a media buyer, or why do you do it directly? And I think this is more for you two. So you do all the media buying yourself?
At the moment, yes, but I can understand why some developers choose to work with agencies or media buyers. It can be an instance where when you're entering a geography where you're not an expert, like Asia. Or even if you talk about there are ad networks which are good in their regions, like Germany or Northern Europe, or some ad networks are really good in Latin America and Southern America. So it makes sense. Also, if you are going to buy lots of installs and you don't think that it makes sense to hire a special person or a few people or a team, or you cannot hire a whole team, it can make sense to work through a media buyer. But still, I think it's important for a developer to know what the media buyer is doing for them, and to know the internal process, not just pay the money and expect the installs, but actually to know the process behind it.
So, as a media buyer, what are the most commonly companies you use for us? Is that the larger ones or smaller ones? Are there game developers or non-game developers?
So our main traffic sources are first of all, it's advertising within apps. So it's we place ads, we place offer walls, and all this stuff inside apps. Then we use mobile websites. We put ads on mobile websites. Then we work with discovery apps like Upgrades and other guys. So we take traffic from them, and also we work with many leading ad networks. So we just monetize their remnant traffic to get the best conversion rate for app developers. So for example, app developer could work with a Mobi or with a mob just by himself, but our main value is that when developer approaches Clickky and asks us to drive him installs, we use multiple channels, and it allows us to tune this campaign and to bring the most matching, the most suitable audience for this app developer. And of course, not many app developers have some required expertise some required experience to optimize campaigns and to get cheap installs, because it requires special to have special people, to have special platform, and to have experience, and we have it. So it's our main core value. So I think that only the biggest worldwide developers, maybe they don't need to work with the platform, but all the middle-sized guys and all small guys, and of course indie developers, they need to rely on specialists, because so they will have more time that they could spend on development. Because I think that at this market, each one should do his job. So to do the job that he could do better than others, and so That's why we are here.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point. I think the majority of sort of game developers, as they're starting off, they're very passionate about developing the game. They're haven't got the right experience initially about sort of who to go, who to partner with, where they should be buying their content from, or where they should be, getting their acquisition from. So find a partner. As you mentioned, there are enough partners out there, so you can try a partner that you develop that relationship, get the confidence in, track the data, and if they're successful, you'll see the installs come. And also then, if you're using some of the data that's available from people on the panel, then you can see how successful those installs are. I think just driving installs is only part of the equation. I think retention will be the next big thing in this industry. I think the cost of acquisition is getting so big that there's be an about turn and a big focus on retention, because I've heard some frightening stats as the cost of acquisition is overtaking the lifetime value of users. So that's just not going to work. That's not a sustainable business for a lot of companies out there. And I think it's all going to be about how you make sure that your people that are installing your games, how they keep on using your games and see the revenue keep coming, keep those users coming. So it's all going to be about retention moving forward rather than install.
I think you just mentioned a fair point together with Vadim. That's building a relationship and trust. I mean, there's so many networks out there, services. Your analytics are, well, the core of your business at the moment with your game. Do any of you have negative experiences in this, that you have the idea that, well, there's not full disclosure on what's happening with your distribution, or that your analytics are sold? Or, I mean, in the past there were... Analytics is basically a very hard business model, actually, and now some people found good money, but maybe you can explain how you make your money in both AppsFlyer and, edX and Distimo, because for a game developer it's clear, but...
Yeah, so just to be completely transparent, what we do at Distimo is we're out there attracting as many developers onto our platform, and what they're doing is they're sharing their credentials and they're sharing their downloads and their revenues with us. We are then using that data to just help us do some estimations and actually work out exactly how big the market is. So we're taking your data, we're overlaying that with the publicly available data that's out there from the app stores, the rankings, and we've got some very clever people in the office that are working out exactly what the rankings are, so we can very accurately, within 10% accuracy, work out exactly what any app out there in the industry is doing. So we track all the apps out there, and we can estimate the number of downloads and the amount of revenue that people are getting. So if you want to have a look at one of your competitors, or you're developing a similar game, I'm going to use Candy Crush as a bad example, because I'm sure we all want to be like Candy Crush, but you can have a look at any of your competitors and see exactly what they're doing in the market. So that's part of the premium model. Currently, there's quite an expensive price point, so we will be bringing out in the next few months a self-checkout type service, which will be more aimed at the smaller developer.
Yeah, for addicts it's quite simple. You sign up to an addicts license agreement, and we act as your data processors. Your data remains your own, and simply we will charge you just a monthly flat fee. So it's a very competitive model, because it's purely based on the number of apps that you have in your account, and you can drive as many clicks as you need to through the tracking tool, and you will always know that you will be paying the same amount each month. And we moved to that model very recently because we wanted to support tier 1 gaming developers, and we didn't want the tracking element to be difficult to budget for, and having a flat fee model ensures that it isn't. But just touching on some of the points some of the other panels have already made, it's so important in a highly competitive market where you have hundreds of ad networks. You can't really go it alone. You need to be able to work out where all your most effective traffic is coming from, and what AdX does is it kind of gives you that visibility. It brings all the most the best performing placements to the surface, and we help a lot of our clients identify what we call the whale users as well. So where are these high spending users actually coming from, and then you need to be in a position to use that data that you get through AdX to actually chase after those people, because you're trying to generate more revenue, because if you aren't chasing after those whale users, your competitors will be.
So you actually get back the revenue per user from the developer, so they send that back to AdX, so you combine that together with the conversion and the retention?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, because this is the key, of course. Then we've been talking about what we do and how we do it, but I think it's also interesting to know what are your favorite, and this is again for more developer focus, what are your favorite channels and media types, and where do you get the most ROI? So maybe, Nadia, you can, if there is a favorite.
There are different, at different stages of the life cycle of your product, you have different goals. If you want to reach the top, you have the so-called burst campaign, and you may have different favorite channels than when you have a sustained campaign.
So you mean the ROI is less important in the beginning than?
No. I'm saying that if you want to reach top rankings, you are choosing cheaper installs which drive your game up to the top, which may be incentivized advertisement. If you want to have a sustained campaign, or if you're in the soft launch and you need really quality users to get the gameplay data, you go for non-incentivized ad networks or ad formats, and you obviously pick them. We have not so long ago started with Facebook mobile ad installs, and they're quite good. Basically to be honest, we don't like banners like 30 to 50. We don't like them as a publisher of ads, and we don't like them as an advertiser. But any full screen ad will work better, obviously, than banners. Then, of course, Facebook is able to put your ad in a social context to show how many of your friends are playing this. This converts well. And we haven't yet worked with it, but I have talked to other developers and ad providers, and everybody is saying that video ads and rich media ads will be most convertible and highest paying if you're a publisher very soon, or maybe now they are.
Yeah, definitely for a publisher it's really high eCPM, I think.
Yeah.
And for an advertiser it's also very high quality users. I don't know about the volume still. I think that's the biggest question with video advertising at the moment, is the volume. There's not enough supply. There's a lot of demand, and mainly focused at US. I see more and more as in Western Europe localized video, but it's just a lot of work to localize videos. So that's the thing. But what do you think, Vadim? Do you also use different media types for different purposes, or?
Considering main traffic sources, I may tell you that it depends on a specific application. For example, some hardcore games or some niche applications, I like to buy traffic from social media for these applications, because these applications, they require a specific targeting options. Yes, so you need to define age and the gender of your audience, because your game requires some specific audience. Yeah. And only in social media, for example, on Facebook or on Mail.ru, you could get such targeting. But as for casual games, or just for casual apps, you could use discovery apps, you could use in-app advertising, and you could get really good performance from there. So my main point is that you should test everything prior to making some decisions. Yes, because everything depends on a specific app, in one specific country. For example, if you decided to make a launch in China, you need to use a totally different traffic sources. Yeah, so you need to test everything, and only after testing to make some decisions, because many people have some assumptions what works better, but you need to track how it works with your specific application.
Yeah, so you use the different networks, and this is a question I had for edX. You compare different networks because you show how one network converts better or has better ROI than others. What exactly do you use for that?
You mean what different metrics?
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, it's dependent on your KPI. So, like I said, it could be the conversion rate that you're comparing the ad networks on. It could be, like we've talked more about the fact that retention's becoming increasingly important. So you might be looking at the retention rate for the different ad networks. We're finding a lot of our clients now are more focused on, they want to engage with their users over time. They don't want to just drive loads of downloads and then see those users drop off after a couple of days through their paid acquisition. They want to retain them, so they're looking at those as key metrics. And things like we've talked about, the cohorted ARPU, so the average revenue per user that's coming from each of these ad networks. Obviously, we've seen some really good results from people like Chartboost and Facebook as well, having higher average revenue per user. So that's been really interesting, and there's pretty much, depending on your KPI, there's pretty much reporting adX that can support it. And like I said, a lot of the clients I speak to now are like, we need to take it that step further. It's not enough just to look at the ad network in isolation. They want to know, they want more transparency. They want to know what's going on with the publishers that make up that ad network as well, which is why we've developed the reporting around being able to look at all the sales revenue that's being driven from the individual publishers as well as the ad networks. That's kind of where it's evolving to, and that's one of the metrics.
Okay, thanks. Well, this is a more general question, and I don't know if there's a one correct answer, but we've seen so many ad networks, so many tracking solutions. Mopeup just has been acquired by Twitter, which was a logical step. Still a surprise, but a logical step. What do you think is going to happen? Maybe, Richard, you have an idea on, or not, I don't know. What's the next big thing? What needs to happen?
Well, I'm not sure as far as acquisition is concerned, but I think what we're going to see is more and more game developers working together. We've recently seen sort of Puzzles and Dragons advertising within Candy Crush, so that Puzzles and Dragons were very successful in Asia. They weren't doing very well in the US. So, and vice versa. Clash of Clans wasn't doing very well in Asia. So what they did is run a campaign together where they advertised within each of the app, and sure enough, they've had massive success. Clash of Clans has had massive success in Korea, and Puzzles and Dragons in the US, with getting into the top 10 in the last week. So I think there's going to be a lot more sort of collaboration between developers from Asia. And obviously we're seeing a massive growth in revenues, mainly coming from Google in Asia. So I think that's going to be the next big thing.
I had another question about shit. I'm not fully awake today, but so I think that the conclusion is that buying users, well, there's no other way. Yeah, of course, you can be featured, the virality, those things are very important, but the CPIs, they're pretty stable. Of course, they fluctuate a bit around, like we saw with Thanksgiving, a huge rise in CPIs that people were buying, but how can a small-time developer or a mid-sized developer still do user acquisition? And maybe that's something, Vadim, that you know because you represent them as well. So what's the best way, and is it still affordable, and is it still possible?
Well, I think that if you speak about independent developers, smaller developers, they just just often they can't afford to buy traffic to do user acquisition, and especially for their needs, we decided to open an in-house agency. So we allow them just to get traffic using cheaper ways, cheaper tools like App Store optimization, press release distribution, and all this stuff. So non-traffic stuff, yes, and sometimes it really works. So I think that user acquisition is mostly for big developers and middle-sized, because it requires big budgets just to test traffic, yes. But of course, if you have money, of course, it's the best way to scale, the best way not to lose time and to get your audience faster and to earn money faster.
First off, all developers, if they're in it for business, if they're not just making games for fun, if they want to attract users, they should know from start that they will have to spend money and they will allocate a certain budget to user acquisition. When you're making your game, remember that the cost per install may be higher than $2, so make a game in which it's easy to spend more than $5, because your bid will always depend on lifetime value. So make sure that you're not just offering one pack of hints for 99 cents and that's it. That said, if you have managed to make a game which is convertible and which is monetizable, you can cooperate with fellow developers. Like Richard said, the cooperation works really well. You can find the indie developers who have made the similar game before and ask them what channels did they use, because like Vadim said, even testing requires some money. So if you find developers and use their knowledge to your advantage, everybody in the gaming scene is very open. They will be happy to share. If they had a positive experience, they will always tell you what kind of network they used. And if you're in it for long term, make sure that you integrate something for cross-promotion in your game. So when your next game comes out, you can use your user base instead of acquiring new users again.
Yeah, I just want to sort of reiterate, I think it's really important that there isn't a golden bullet that gives the answer to where you can get users from. I think speaking to each other, events like this where you're in the community, find out where people are having success, try something, try it again, and try other things until you get you start seeing success. I just think it's just try something, get out there, speak to other people, find out where they're all having success, and work together in the community. I think it's really important.
Yeah, I think it's important as well to, because you're not going to be playing with big budgets and you don't have budget to waste, is to, use a tracking tool. And there are lots of different tracking tools out there and different payment models, and hopefully there'll be one to suit your needs. But that will give you the insight, that will give you the knowledge and the power that you need, because, like Richard said, you're going to be trying to work with different ad networks. Some will work better than others. And you need a tracking solution, because effectively what it does is it dedupes back to the last click. So, for example, if you were working with 10 different ad networks and you were carrying 10 different SDKs in your application, there'd be a lot of crossover, and a lot of those ad networks would be claiming the same download. But if you use a tracking solution like AdX and the other ones out there, what that does is that sort of takes that away, and it will tell you back to the last click. So, last click wins where that actually came from. So I think be really smart about it, be targeted, and use a tool that gives you some data, a bit of power. And also, it seems like a simple thing, but whatever tool you choose to use, make sure you understand every part of that tool as well. So, I always tell my clients, get to know AdX really well, because then you'll get more out of it. And if you're investing in a tracking solution, you want to make sure that you can use it to the best of its ability.
But isn't it a problem that using an agency or media buyer like Clickky, using Distimo, using AdX, that all cost extra money on top of the CPI.
No, I disagree. So I think there are enough free tools out there for these guys to be using. I wouldn't. My recommendation is don't spend any money until you're 100% confident with the partner you choose. Have a look at their success. So, yeah, there are enough free tools. The services we provide for free, they're not going to drive any installs to you, but they might help you see where your installs are coming from, and that's a free service. Some of our conversion tracking that we've got is free. So, and there are other providers out there that provide enough free tools that you don't have to start investing, because the last thing you want to do is start spending your money on things that aren't going to drive installs and revenue to your game. So have a word with other people, find out the free tools and resources that are available.
Yeah, I really agree with Richard on that point. I think, once you get going, if you're not going to use a solution or a tracking tool, then you are potentially going to be wasting budget. So I think that's a really key thing to kind of recognise, that you are saving money and therefore generating revenue in that way by having data at your disposal.
Okay, fair enough. I think we have a few minutes left. I don't know if anybody else has something that he still wants to say about the subjects, or has felt that we missed something. Otherwise, we maybe can take some questions from the audience.
No, I think we should leave some time for questions, because I think audience. I want to ask something.
You?
Yeah. So we should leave some time for questions.
Yeah, no. So let's do the questions. Yeah. He's your fan. You started clapping.
Да, всем привет. Могу я по-русски, наверное, говорить? Ну, мне сложно по-английски в силу своих личностных каких-то моментов. Mail.ru, Миша Малый, я руковожу всем трафиком, который доступен, собственно, с Mail.ru. Подытожить, да, что вы сказали, вы говорили очень правильные вещи. Спасибо, хочу сказать вам. У вас, как у людей, которые хотят купить трафик на тот или иной проект, должно быть одно понимание, где его покупать. Его нужно покупать там, где есть инструменты, релевантные вашей аудитории. Все. Вот на этом точка. Вот если нет инструментов, и вы покупаете его вслепую, то, скорее всего, конечно же, вы получите там какую-то адскую цену конверсии. Это факт. Это так и есть, так и будет. Если есть инструменты, как у нас, да, которые и позволяют вам выделить ту аудиторию, которая является аудиторией вашей игры, то, пожалуйста. Да. И у меня вопрос коллегам, да, как вы вообще используете Facebook? Просто расскажите, пожалуйста, как вы грамотно работаете с Фейсбуком, и с Mail.ru. То есть, в чем сложность? Чего не хватает? Каких инструментов не хватает? Да, и в чем сложность? Не, давайте так. Не тоже в чем сложность работы с Фейсбуком, а в чем, каких инструментов не хватает со стороны площадки, чтобы мы их могли сделать. Мы, наверное, можем очень многое. Совсем многое. Каких инструментов не хватает? К вам приходит клиент и говорит то, что я хочу получить такую-то аудиторию. Вот чего не хватает?
So, social networks as a source of buying mobile installs or just game installs is a very comfortable tool, because it allows precise targeting, interest targeting, gender, whatever targeting. But we don't have experience with Mail.ru, I'm sorry. On Facebook, we... Yet, of course.
We will buy Mail.ru for them. So.
But with Facebook, it doesn't always give you a view of where you stand with your competitors. for example, if I'm using Chartboost and if I put a bid, it shows me this bid puts you in top 10% of the network. This bid is you're in top 50. So I kind of get a general idea of the size of the market. On Facebook, it's more blind bidding. So in terms of can I actually buy installs cheaper on Facebook than I'm buying now? It's a vague question, which is not always answered. So sometimes there may be a feeling that you're paying a little bit too much.
So the main advantage of Facebook, from our perspective, is the volume. So the volume of traffic, because Facebook has, I don't remember exactly, but around 400 millions of people, of daily audience visiting Facebook from mobile devices, something like that. But the main disadvantage for us is that there are no opportunity to use tracking links. So you should only use the direct links to App Store or Google Play. And it's a little kind of shit for networks, because you just can't leverage Facebook on their full potential. Yeah, so you need to become their mobile measurement partner, yes, to be able to use it. But of course, Facebook is great if considering targeting options, and so you could just specify which audience exactly do you need. Yes, so just little.
Sorry, my question is what you need more instruments for as a platform, because I am platform. Yes, I am from platform. We want to make produce you more instruments.
I got your point. Okay.
Just tell us what instruments what you want.
Okay. So. First of all, you should be integrated with all main tracking guys. Yes, so that a developer who uses ADX, for example, yes, so he will be able just to start buying traffic from you and to see post-install events from your traffic channel. Yes, so you need to be integrated with all these guys, and then of course maybe. I don't know, maybe you should also add some countries, for example, US, UK, because Russia it's not enough, yeah? You know, because, sorry.
We don't have enough traffic from US.
But then, you know, you are doing a great job. I think you have all the tools, but you should be integrated with all the tracking.
But we have all traffic from Russia.
Yeah, but you should. Yeah, but it's okay. But you should be integrated with all tracking providers, and maybe. I don't know, maybe also allow some retargeting options as Facebook does, because from my perspective, mobile retargeting is one of the most important trends for the next year, because now advertisers are aimed to buy to make user acquisition, and in the next year I think they will aim to focus on retention and how to drive this audience back. And if Mail.ru will think about some retargeting tools, I think you will be at the cutting edge of this technology in the next year.
We are making our own SDK.
SDK is great, but I think you should not demand all advertisers to use it, because you will just limit them. So they could use ADX SDK or ours or yours. Okay, it's not a problem. Okay.
So I think there's a really good opportunity where you need to be working with the likes of Distimo, so you can give these guys sort of that transparency and some of those tools to track the downloads that are coming from you. So we'll have a chat in a minute, yeah?
We as a platform, we always listen questions where you will be an official partner of any SDKs. Distimo is Flurry is Flyer, AMAT, and etc. And but we thinking, and but we are making our own SDK, and it's should be very good unleashing system, and it should be not only SDK as a tracking, but as a flurry. You can see any as your audition. Дальше мне английского не хватает. As your audition was in your application, sorry.
On your mic. Прошу прощения, снова вопрос на русском языке. Скажите, пожалуйста, такой вопрос. Очень много говорилось о таком показателе, как lifetime value. Для некоторых игр порог платежа наступает достаточно долго. Вот, допустим, первая, вторая неделя там, и так далее. Какой вы рекомендуете или можете из личного опыта посоветовать, какой срок отслеживания контрольных групп для того, чтобы принимать решение вот, о, собственно, lifetime value данной группы пользователей? То есть сколько нужно смотреть на контрольные группы, чтобы, собственно, экстраполяция каких-то данных, денежных потоков была на самом деле вот, более-менее объективной?
Спасибо. Очень хороший и важный вопрос. Lifetime value is now everybody speaks about it, like you said, but everybody measures it differently. I have, for the last 3 months, I have found so many formulas, different formulas, how to measure it. And so first, to get it, before you have a global launch, this is what soft launches are for. To see how long people are playing and make decisions based on this. To be very honest, we are using analytics system which calculates lifetime value for us. So maybe we're not big enough yet to make up our own formulas and have all the big data and work with the big data on ourselves. So basically we just take the lifetime value which the analytics provider gives to us based on our data.
Thanks.
Another questions?
Hi, what can you say about paid applications? I know that few ad networks can provide CPI or CPC for paid applications.
Well, yeah, I can tell from our own network that we still see some paid applications, and we only run CPC campaigns for paid applications, not CPI, because that will throw our whole platform, our eCPM off. I actually am still in favor of paid applications. I think I'm a dinosaur, but I still believe in them. But the hardest part is the marketing around these, because the expectations of the user is unfortunately that everything's free. So all the networks are actually based on free-to-play, and CPI is based on free-to-play. So of course people are working on new tools and especially if you do CPA, I think that's also something you could do. But it's just very difficult because CPC, and then you end up paying a CPI that is so high, you will never, if you have a $1 app or 89 cents in the Europe, well, you can't buy a paid user for under that price, so you will always lose money. At least that's my experience, and so unfortunately I don't have an answer for you, but the thing is that people still try. Mostly people make it free, play with the pricing, and then do acquisition and then try to make it paid again. So some people have, I can't say which games, but they have, well, multiple million installs for a paid game with only like a million really paid ones. So they have like, so let's say 8, 9, 10 million installs in total, but only 1 million of them were paid. So then basically what they do is they market it, they put it out there, because that's the thing you want to do. You want to make people aware of the existence of your game, and that's not going to happen if you make it paid from day one. So this is the most difficult part.
Yeah, I think the paid apps, as far as monetizing on paid apps is going to be really difficult at the moment. So give you an example, so Badland, I don't know if anyone's familiar with Badland. I'm not sure what the price of Badland was. Very few installs coming from when they had it at full price. Reduced it for a week, and I think it was 150,000 downloads per day in one day achieved. So, and then you can see the revenues that have just continued to grow since that price change. So if you are insisting on having a paid app, then definitely play around the price, drop the price, make it free, see how that affects the downloads, and quite often you can see the revenues continuing to grow beyond that price drop. So it's definitely worth having a look at dropping the price.
For paid apps, we usually do a cost per click testing. Then we measure effective CPI rate, and then if advertiser agrees to continue with this CPI rate, then we charge him on a cost per install, and also we offer some non-traffic services like press release coverage, reviews, App Store optimization. It usually helps with paid apps.
So our most popular games are on iOS are paid, and I feel the pain of every developer who tries to distribute a paid game. What we did, we made a trial version, and we buy traffic to the trial version. We try to increase conversion from the trial version to the paid version, and also in the trial version there are ads. So we buy traffic at a certain price, and we get our investment back by either people converting to the paid version or by people watching and clicking on ads. And of course, like Vadim said, PR works in these cases far better than for free apps.
Yeah, I think it's a really tricky one. I think something like 80% of the market now is based on the freemium model and in-app purchase. So again, it's a very competitive environment, and quite a tricky one if you are going down the paid route. I think Rich is right. I think things like playing around with the price is a good idea, and seeing how that affects things, and obviously making sure that when you've got tracking in place, you're looking at what those results actually yield from the different ad networks that you're working with, and as soon as you start seeing some good results, then go chasing after them and optimize and do that very, very quickly as well.
Есть еще вопросы? Нет? Тогда благодарим участников круглого стола.